The real estate agent's email arrived at 3 a.m. Mrs. Thompson, there seems to be some confusion. Your husband claims you've agreed to sell the house, but we still need your signature to finalize the closing. I stared at my phone in the dim light of the kitchen. Our kitchen, the one I had designed with care, from the hand-painted tiles to the herb garden window that filled the space with life. James assumed I was fast asleep upstairs, oblivious to his late-night schemes. But I had been tracking his betrayal for months. My name is Catherine Thompson, and after 15 years of marriage, my husband was about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating me. The signs had started appearing 6 months earlier, small, seemingly insignificant things at first. James working late more often. Unfamiliar charges on our credit card. Hushed phone calls that would abruptly end the moment I walked into the room. Then, his behavior toward me began to change. The man who once raved about my cooking suddenly found fault with every meal. My clothes were now too frumpy. My interests? Boring. I might have chalked it up to a midlife crisis, until I found the receipt. A $122,000 charge at Cartier. Dated 3 days after he told me we needed to cut back on spending and cancel our anniversary trip. The purchase? A bracelet. And it definitely wasn't for me. That discovery sent me down a rabbit hole of secrets. Hidden bank statements showing large cash withdrawals, hotel bookings in cities where he supposedly had business meetings, and most recently, emails to real estate agents about selling our home. All of it buried in his private email account, one he thought I didn't know about. Katie. His voice drifted down from upstairs. You coming back to bed? I took a steady breath, then called back. Just getting some water. Be right up. Closing my laptop, I exhaled slowly. My mind raced. This house wasn't just a property. It was my dream. I had spent 3 years pouring my heart into its renovation, turning every room into a reflection of my vision as an interior designer. And now, James was trying to sell it out from under me to finance his affair with a woman young enough to be our daughter. What he didn't know. I had been 2 steps ahead of him the entire time. The next morning, I watched James leave for work, briefcase in hand, pressing a phony kiss to my cheek. As soon as his car disappeared around the corner, I grabbed my phone and dialed my lawyer. He's making his move, I said as soon as she answered. I got an email from the real estate agent last night. Perfect, Rachel replied, the sound of papers shuffling in the background. Everything's ready on our end. Are you sure you want to wait? I thought about all the evidence I had gathered. Screenshots of his messages to Amanda, a 23-year-old yoga instructor, financial records showing how he had been siphoning money from our accounts, and fake business trips that were actually secret romantic getaways. But timing was everything. No, I said firmly. Let him think he's winning. I want to see his face when he realizes what's really happening. After hanging up, I walked through the house, running my fingers along the walls I had lovingly painted. I remembered every detail, every hour spent perfecting each space. James used to mock me, calling me obsessive. But now I understood he had never appreciated a single thing I built. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Diana. Just saw James at that new bistro downtown. He's not alone. I already knew what I'd find, but I asked her to send a photo anyway. Sure enough, there he was, sitting across from Amanda. Her bleach blonde hair caught the sunlight as she laughed at something he said, the Cartier bracelet glinting on her wrist. Thanks, I texted back. Keep me posted. That evening, James strolled in later than usual, reeking of expensive perfume and wine. He didn't notice that I had subtly rearranged my home office, securing my most important documents. He was too busy checking his phone, probably texting Amanda. Busy day, I asked, setting the dinner table with his favorite meal, pot roast and roasted potatoes. Yeah, he muttered, barely looking up. Big client meeting. Then, he casually dropped the bomb. Listen, Katie, we need to talk about the house. I kept my expression carefully neutral. Oh. He cleared his throat, spinning his well-rehearsed web of lies. I've been thinking, maybe it's time for a change. This place is too big for us. The market is great right now. You want to sell? I asked, my voice small, uncertain. Exactly what he expected. Relieved. He launched into his speech about downsizing, smart investments, and seizing new opportunities. I nodded in all the right places, while my mind raced toward what was coming next. I actually spoke to a few agents, he admitted, watching me carefully, just to get an idea of the market. I forced tears into my eyes, a trick I had perfected in college theater. But this is our home, I whispered, voice trembling. We put so much work into it. He reached across the table, patting my hand in a patronizing way. Sometimes we have to make tough decisions, honey. Trust me. I let out a broken sob and rushed from the table like the emotional, irrational wife he thought I was. But the moment I stepped into the bedroom, I pulled out my phone and texted Rachel. He's making his pitch now. Time to move to phase 2. The following week passed in a blur of carefully hidden preparations. While James assumed I was busy with my design clients, I was actually meeting financial advisors, securing assets, and documenting his betrayal. Diana kept me updated on his extravagant spending, lunch dates with Amanda, trips to high-end jewelry stores, a visit to a luxury car dealership. He was burning through money like it was nothing, probably making promises to Amanda that he had no intention of keeping. Then, finally, the email I had been waiting for arrived. James had found a cash buyer for the house. A deal too good to pass up. He forwarded me the details with a fake reassuring note. This is a great opportunity, honey. We need to move fast. I showed the email to Rachel, who smirked. He really thinks you'll just sign without checking the details. He's never believed I was capable of handling finances, I said, remembering the countless times he dismissed my investment questions. That was about to change. That night, James turned on the charm, bringing home my favorite wine and suggesting dinner on the patio. I knew exactly what was coming. The final, manipulative push to convince me to sign away my home. The buyers need an answer by Friday, he said smoothly. They're offering cash, Katie. We'd be fools to pass this up. I sipped my wine, studying his face in the fading light. The man I had shared my life with for 15 years now looked different. Hard. Cold. A liar in every way. You're right, I said softly. We'd be fools. His eyes lit up in victory. He didn't realize the game was already over. I sent one final message to Rachel. He understood it was time for the endgame. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls from James and a stream of increasingly frantic texts. You're making a huge mistake. We can still talk about this. Don't do anything reckless, Katie. The buyers won't wait forever. A smirk played on my lips as I brewed my morning coffee in the kitchen I had painstakingly designed. James had always underestimated me, treating me as nothing more than a trophy wife, someone whose sole purpose was to make things aesthetically pleasing. What he had failed to recognize was that interior design was more than just picking colors. It required business sense, keen attention to detail, and above all, the ability to read people. My phone rang again, James. This time I picked up. The buyer pulled out, he said abruptly. Thanks to your little tantrum, we just lost the best offer we'll ever get. I took a sip of my coffee, my tone unwavering. No, James. You lost the best thing you ever had. The house? That was just the final straw. He started to argue, but I interrupted him. Check your email. I heard his sharp inhale as he opened the message from my lawyer. The email laid out every single transaction he had made using our joint funds over the past year, every hotel booking, every extravagant gift to Amanda. And most crucially, it contained legal documents proving that I had secured an injunction, ensuring that no sale of our house could proceed without explicit court approval. You can't do this, he sputtered. I already have. I let the silence stretch before delivering the final blow. Oh, and James, Amanda called me this morning. A awaited pause. I could almost hear his thoughts racing. She was quite surprised to learn that you're still married. Apparently, you told her we got divorced 2 years ago. That's why she never met your friends or family. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The second James realized just how meticulously I had dismantled his carefully spun web of lies. What he didn't know was that I had met Amanda in person 2 days prior, presenting her with undeniable proof of his deception. She was young, but not naive. When I showed her how you'd been burning through our retirement savings for her, she was horrified. I continued. Did you really think she'd want to be part of ruining someone's life? A loud crash erupted on his end, something shattering. James' notorious temper flaring up. "You ruined everything," he roared. I shook my head, my voice calm. "No, James. You did that all on your own. I just made sure I wouldn't go down with you." After hanging up, I walked through the house. My house now, running my fingers along the furniture, the walls, all the little pieces of our life together, things he had been so willing to sacrifice for his reckless fantasy. That afternoon, Hannah came over, bringing wine and a listening ear. "How are you holding up?" she asked, handing me a glass. I settled into my favorite window seat, taking a sip. Better than I expected. I glanced around, thinking about how much had changed. It's funny. A year ago, this would have shattered me. What changed? I exhaled, remembering the exact moment everything shifted, the day I found that suspicious credit card receipt. I finally realized I was worth more than what James reduced me to. The second I stopped trying to save our marriage and started saving myself, everything became crystal clear. My phone buzzed, an email from Rachel with an update on the divorce proceedings. James' attempts to hide assets had backfired spectacularly, triggering a forensic audit on all of his accounts. The judge was not pleased. "Miss Thompson," Rachel wrote, "given the evidence of financial misconduct, we're in a strong position to secure not just the house but a substantial share of all marital assets. Would you like to proceed?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal battles and bombshell revelations. James' so-called empire crumbled, one piece at a time. His company launched an internal investigation into his expense accounts, uncovering years of dubious transactions. Amanda, still reeling from his deception, offered up her own evidence of his lies. Through it all, I continued to grow my design business, even landing a major contract, a historic hotel renovation. The client had specifically sought me out after seeing our home featured in a design magazine, the same house James had so desperately tried to sell behind my back. One evening, as I was reviewing renovation plans in my home office, the doorbell rang. It was James. Disheveled, hollow-eyed, defeated. "Can we talk?" he asked, voice rough. I stepped aside, watching as his eyes swept over the house, the subtle but meaningful changes I had made. The new artwork, the reimagined layout, every trace of his presence erased. He slumped into a chair, running a hand through his graying hair. "I messed up pay." His voice cracked. "Amanda's gone. The company suspended me pending their investigation. And my lawyer says I'll be lucky if I don't end up facing criminal charges over the financial stuff." I tilted my head, unimpressed. "What exactly did you think was going to happen, James? That you could steal our future, and I'd just roll over and accept it?" He let out a ragged breath. "I don't know. I thought I deserved more. I thought you'd be lost without me." I laughed, genuinely this time. "That was always your problem. You saw me as an extension of you, never as my own person. While you were busy destroying your future, I was building mine." 3 months later, our divorce was finalized. I kept the house, my business, most of our assets. James, on the other hand, paid dearly for his financial misdeeds, for his arrogance, for every choice that had led him here. His career was in ruins, his reputation tarnished. As for Amanda, to her credit, she chose a different path. She returned every extravagant gift, using the money to launch her own yoga studio. She even hired me to design the space. "I'm sorry," she had said at our first design meeting. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I truly believed you two were divorced." I studied her for a moment before replying. "We all learned some hard lessons. What matters is what we do next." A year after that fateful morning when I had received the real estate agent's email, I stood in my garden, hosting a celebration. My design business had flourished, expanding to include 3 new designers and a commercial division. The historic hotel renovation had won multiple awards, leading to even more prestigious projects. Diana raised her glass. To new beginnings. Laughter and cheers rang around me. I looked at the home I had fought so hard to keep, the career I had built, the life I had reclaimed, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. The life I had rebuilt was now truly mine. My phone buzzed. James's sister had sent a message. He's living in a tiny apartment now, working an entry-level job. Keeps saying he should have valued what he had. I didn't bother replying. James's regrets were no longer my concern. Instead, I turned my attention back to my guests, raising my glass. To knowing your worth, I said, and never letting anyone make you forget it. Cheers erupted around me. Later that night, after everyone had left, I sat in my garden, listening to the gentle trickle of the fountain I had installed in place of James's beloved grill. The stars shone brightly above, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of jasmine I had planted last spring. My phone lit up, an email from a potential client requesting a consultation. Life moved forward, bringing new opportunities, fresh challenges, and more chances to prove what I was capable of. James had believed selling our house would finance his new beginning. Instead, his betrayal had given me the freedom to create something far greater than I had ever envisioned. Sometimes, losing what you once thought was essential opens doors to everything you truly deserve. I ran my fingers along the warm stone of the house, my house, feeling the strength of its foundation beneath my touch. Like me, it had endured storms and emerged stronger. Every room now told a story, not of loss, but of everything I had gained by standing up for myself. The next morning, my schedule was packed. 3 client meetings, 2 project reviews, and a consultation with an investor interested in expanding my business nationwide. James's attempts to diminish me had only highlighted how much I could accomplish on my own. As I got ready for the day, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was no longer broken. She had turned betrayal into triumph, pain into power. The house he had tried to sell had become a symbol of my independence. And the life he had tried to destroy? It had transformed into something far beyond his narrow imagination. After all, the best revenge isn't just success. It's succeeding in ways your betrayer never believed possible.